Joining us right now is former Republican presidential candidate, Fox News contributor Herman Cain. Herman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning.
So in terms of what this market has been doing, we're obviously looking at an investment community that's focused on tax reform and these policies of rolling back regulations. Is the president meeting those promises?
Absolutely. And when you look at the economic indices, all of them, not just the stock market, job creation, unemployment, GDP growth, they're all good. Now, when the president gets criticized for not delivering some of those results that require legislative action, I think they're trying to ask him to do something he can't do. He has rolled back a lot of the regulations, which you have indicated, but he has set a positive tone from the top. And I think the fact that he's working so hard, along with some members of Congress, in order to get that tax package through, I think that continues to drive the positive enthusiasm.
Yeah, but we still don't have a real legislative victory, right? So tax reform, let's talk about that for a second, Herman. The president called a group of 12 Democratic senators yesterday, urging lawmakers to get behind the GOP tax bill. He reportedly said that the legislation would hurt the rich and he would get killed financially. First of all, I don't understand how he's going to get killed financially if he doesn't even really have an income, right? Because he's president. How does he get killed?
Well, you know, even though he put all of his assets...
There's no tax on wealth in the bank. Right?
No.
Right.
But one day he won't be president. I hope that's going to take another 7 years. But the point is, he will eventually go back and reclaim his assets. That's probably what he's talking about.
I see.
Now,
okay.
Go back to no legislative victory. How are you going to get a legislative victory when you have 100% Democrat obstruction and you've got part of the Republican Party, I call them rhinos, who are also against him succeeding? That was one legislative victory, and that was the nomination of the Supreme Court justice.
That's true.
That was the one legislative victory. He can't do any of these other things without some cooperation.
Right.
And relative to the taxes that you brought up, relative to that, because that frustrates me.
That's a good point. And the truth is, we can't underestimate, guys, the fact that he has rolled back regulations. He's actually the least regulatory president, taking down federal pages by more than 30%, Jason.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
Jason Chaffetz here. Regulation really has been important. The rollback, you look at what's happened, for instance, in the coal industry. What other segments and sectors do you see the regulation really helping? Is it just small business? Is it big business? Where do you see the effect?
I think it's all business. I used to be in the restaurant business, and I can tell you a lot of the regulations that were rolled back impacted the restaurant industry because as an industry, we were overburdened with regulations. You can also look at a lot of the environmental regulations that were rolled back that would allow farmers to do what they do. They farm. But relative to the overall tax package overall, look, the president put a bold proposal on the table. That's the good news. But unfortunately, I suspected that the debate was going to be over who's going to be able to protect their favorite deduction or their favorite aspect, such that they would gradually water it down, trying to attract rhinos and thinking that a few Democrats might vote with it. The American people are going to have to insist that they pass a credible package and not give us tax reform crumbs. That's where this is heading, and I can understand why the president would be frustrated.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. I mean, you had a plan 999 to reform the tax code. That was your centerpiece of your campaign. But Dagan, this plan is hardly simple. This has lots of confusing elements to it, specifically on the individual side.
Sneaky, tricky, embedded in this tax plan, tax hikes on many groups of individuals.
And how come what carried interest wasn't looked at? I want to know.
That, and Brady had to make an amendment that extends the holding period for those assets. That happened early this week. $75,000 to $100,000. If you earn that amount, 11% of people in that income group, tax increase. It's about a quarter of anybody making more than $1 million in this country. Maybe we needed to listen to President Trump and take him for his word, because he told the Wall Street Journal months ago, My rich friends, they don't mind a tax increase.
Yeah, but
they
it's
say
not
tax
about
us more.
his rich friends. It's not about Robert Kraft.
I agree.
Right? It's about people making hundreds of thousands of dollars or a million. I mean, we've got all the numbers in the Wall Street Journal article today that shows tax increases for some groups that actually need a tax cut.
I have a problem with half the country not paying any income tax at all and not paying one dime for the people who serve this country and fight for our freedom. But I think that President Trump, and at least his language, gave these rhinos cover, Herman, in the House for putting something together that is not tax reform. They give in to the class warfare language of the left, and they're raising taxes on a good chunk of the American people.
100% correct, Dagan. And it's the sneaker taxes plus trying to appease people to get their vote rather than do what's right for the American taxpayers for a change. This is where the frustration comes. And so I'm hopeful that some of them will wake up, but they aren't going to wake up unless their constituency calls them and let them know they need to support the president's plan. If they had just gone with the president's plan and not nitpicked it to death in order to try to win votes, we'd have a bold tax cuts and simplification plan. But right now, we don't have that for a lot of the reasons that Dagan stated.
Herman, Mike Baker here. So what's your perspective on this? Do you think they get a tax package pushed through, or is it going to get stuck?
I believe, based upon what I hear from some of the members of Congress, we will get a tax plan through. But it's not going to be nearly as bold as what the president put on the table. Secondly, here we go again in the Senate. Senator Tom Cotton says, well, the Senate is going to start working on its version.
Yeah,
here we go again.
Right.
Isn't
Another
this
version.
how repeal and replace got killed? This is why the American people are so frustrated.
Can you imagine,
because
Herman,
now
can you imagine if the Senate comes out with a plan to phase in the 20% corporate rate? I mean, who's going to invest and put new money to work hiring new workers if you're not getting 20% until 2022, 5 years?
Make America great again.
In 2022.
In 2022.
In about half a decade.
I mean, and what about can you imagine if Chuck Schumer comes out with a plan to actually keep the SALT deduction in there, totally embarrassing his colleagues on the right? That could happen too, Herman.
Well, Maria, I love you and I agree with you 99% of the time. Chuck Schumer isn't going to support anything that might help get this package through because the Democrats have demonstrated they have zero interest in cutting anybody's taxes. This is why they keep, throwing some teasers out there saying, well, if you put this in, you put this in, and we might do this, we might do that.
Yeah.
They aren't going to do diddly because they have demonstrated for 12 months, since this is the first day after 1 year of President Trump being elected, they have demonstrated for a year 100% resistance against this president.
That's true.
And that includes
Well, we just heard that
taxes.
resistance as well from Tom Perez.
Yes.
Herman, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks very much.
Happy to be here.
Herman Cain joining us there.